This video is predominantly designed to help developing nations in better organizing their agriculture sector. Although it's hard to imagine why developed nations might not have something to take out of it. The inspiration behind this video is the farmer suicides, which has become a major source of concern for various state governments in India. In fact, a couple of state governments have taken a very good initiative of waiving farm loans. However, the only problem is it's only a stopgap arrangement. I'll explain two reasons why I say it's only a stopgap arrangement. Then I'll talk about an agricultural insurance scheme which possibly could be developed further, but is a good basic framework to give agriculture sector an insurance. Now, with the farm loan waiver, the good thing is that it has taken the load off the back of small and marginal farmers. But the problem is twofold. One, it does not address the problem that farmers would still have to take loans because they still have to live their lives. You may waive the loan once, but that does not guarantee that they won't have to take another loan again. And two, it does not address the real problem with the loans, which is the interest. It's the interest which is killing the farmers. Returning the loans is not a problem. It's the interest which is breaking the back of the camel. Now, let me go in detail on both these points. First, the problem with farming lifestyle is farming is as much inconsistent as much it is consistent. Now, what do I mean by that? Farming can give you consistent income for quite a few seasons, and then there could be quite a few bad seasons as well. So it is consistently good and it is consistently bad, depending upon what cycle you are in. And the problem is with farming, you invest once and you only get the money out once you harvest. But life goes on continuously, and people have different things to take care of. Especially in India, where you have to marry off your kids, you have to take education loans for the education of kids, things like that. Waiving loans will not waive them of these responsibilities. And the bigger problem is farming is so mechanized that farmers need money to buy equipment to carry on agriculture. Rather than waiving loans, which is good in some way, the second point, which I'll talk about, interest, that would have helped farmers better. But the money which the government is going to repay the banks, it's not even paying the private loan lenders, it is only paying back the banks. But that money could have been used to equip village councils or village panchayats with equipment, enough equipment that individual farmers do not have to buy that equipment, do not have to buy a tractor, a combine or trailer or harvester, things like that, but they could actually lease them out depending on their need every season from the village council. Of course, they'll pay the requisite rent or rent charges, but it'll be much cheaper for every farmer in that village. So had that money been better spent that way, every farmer would have benefited, and that would have definitely taken a big investment load off the farmer's back. Then comes the problem of interest, which is the main reason why farmers commit suicide. One thing what makes me respect Prophet Mohammad a lot is the way he treated the issue of interest. Now, people get lost in the meaning of his words. People think that he he had an excellent foresight that he said that Muslims will not charge interest, which straight away takes the load off the poor people. But when I look at what he said, I think of it, that man was not born in poverty. That man was born in a resourceful family. And that man was not bogged down by any debts. And yet, that man had the compassion to think about the people who were actually suffering because of the loans and interest. And people think about what he said about interest, and I think about why he said about that interest. I think about the compassion that must have made that man make that statement that you are not going to charge interest, because interest has been the age-old killer. The first step that the governments need to do is to ban what we say cumulative interest completely. There should be no interest on interest. It's as simple as that. You take out a loan, and interest should be only based on that simple interest, and that interest should be no more than what the national bank fixes for money. Doesn't matter whether you're taking it from a private loan lender or whether you're taking from a bank. It should be simple interest, no interest on interest. Farmers keep on paying back interest after interest, yet the principal stays, which is what is driving farmers towards suicide. By simply banning compounding interest completely, and legislatively that making it illegal and saying that the only interest you can charge is simple interest, that would take a huge burden off the farmers. Farmers are not running away from their debts. They just can't pay it. They don't have it to pay it, and they don't have it because they are already exhausted paying back the interest. It was the interest which was killing. And it doesn't matter whether it's the bank giving the money or whether it's the private loan lender. It's the interest which needed to be addressed, and that issue still hasn't been addressed. While the farmers' needs are still there, they'll still have to take loan again. The interest is still there as well. They are the two things which need to be addressed. Now coming to the insurance scheme. The thing in India, agricultural land is measured in acres, and in Australia it's hectares, and so on and so forth. But whatever the unit of your land is, the way insurance scheme should work is basically there should be a basic insurance scheme which covers for 65% agricultural produce. What does that mean? Let's say someone has 100 acres of land and he gets the basic insurance. So that basic insurance will cover his 65% crop. What that means is if something bad happens and 50% of his crop gets destroyed and only 50% remains, then there is a shortfall of 15% between 50 and 65. The insurance will cover that 15. Then of course there should be slabs depending upon how much more money you can pay. You can get your 70% crop insured, your 75% crop insured, or 80%, 85, so on up to 100. And depending upon how much crop you want to get insured, you price the policy accordingly. What that means is that how much you pay will depend upon how many units of land you own and what level of crop you want to get covered. And insurance will cover the shortfall. If someone has got, say, 70% crop insured and all the crop fails, insurance pays 70% of crop. If 69% of crop survives while only 31% fails, then insurance pays for only 1% crop. But most of the time, most of the fields over a wide area, most of the farmers will not suffer that much loss, and insurance will not be paying out many farmers. It'll be only paying out a few farmers. The farming community itself will be supporting itself by getting that insurance. And there's a trend in India of popular politics. You give free electricity to farmers. I say link that electricity to insurance. Say basic insurance is 65%. Make it electricity rebated rates at basic insurance. And if someone insures for 75% or 80% of their crop, then give them totally free electricity, which would be an incentive for the farmers to insure their crops, and that way they will not suffer loss, and that will be one reason less for suicides. Of course, this design could be improved further. So think, people, think.